Of course, I went to put mine on and then I tried to adjust it. And then the magnet dropped down my shirt. Dropped down my pants and went to the floor.
So just when I was on the board, you guys would always...
We're going to get ready to start. First thing I'm going to do is thank the Office of Museum Services because I wrote a grant, and for the first time ever we have camcorder. And Bob Lakin is kind enough to run it for us. And so, the speakers and everybody's going to be on tape for posterity, so excellent. And the second thing I want to do is have the couple board members from our wonderful advisory board come up here. They're going to help me do a presentation. So Joe and Alan. So I'm Deborah Reeder, and I run the Art Museum, for those of you who don't know me. And we have an advisory board that we're very grateful for, and this is Alan Jacoby Jr. and Joe Beers, and they're both on our advisory board. And
well, the advisory board recently had some bit of sad news. For at least the 4 years that I was on the board, Paula Bell was also on the board, and because of numerous commitments that she's had in the community, she just had to make some decisions as to how much she could do, and unfortunately the Art Museum Advisory Board no longer has the benefit of regular work, but I'm sure that she'll continue to help us out. I'm sure most of you know her. Paula is from northern Utah. She's from Paradise. And I don't know if anybody here has been to Paradise, but Paula told me about her childhood there, and my wife and I had gone up to Logan. And when we were in Logan, let's look at the Paradise. So I took a ride down just to see this town. And it sure is a paradise. It's a beautiful town. And I don't know about anyone else who has come from Paradise, but the one person I know is a fine representative of my idyllic place. So we wish Paula the best. And I don't know how much Deborah wants me to do.
well, we have this little token for her, and it has the world, which is our little thing that we do for people, because they mean the world to us. And so it says for making the world a little brighter, and it has her years of service. And so if Paula would come up and accept our little gift for us.
Well, I enjoyed my term on the board. I didn't quit because I wanted to. Sometimes, you know, getting older isn't for sissies. And I found that sometimes it's hard to keep up with everything you want to do. But I love the museum. I love what the museum does in the community. And I love the artists that allow us to bring their art here. And actually, I think that we are far better community because we have the art museum, and Deborah does such a great job with it, and the board does a good job. And I want to thank them for their relationship with me while I was on the board, and for their kindness and consideration, and wish them a lot of luck in the future. And I can see that you're all going to enjoy this presentation this evening. It's wonderful. And thank you so much. I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Okay, moving along. This exhibit, which we all just love so much, the Jim Jones and the Margaret LeFranc downstairs and the Upside Down, which is certainly relevant to what's happening in the economy in the world. And on July 10th, so you have time to peruse the exhibit more if you need to, and we'll be open till 9 o'clock tonight, so you have time afterwards to look around some more, because even though I'm here every day, I see something new almost every time I go through the show. Another thing I want to mention is we're doing, for the first time ever, these art classes for children here in the museum, and they're on ancient Egypt, the culture and art of ancient Egypt. And we're starting a new session for first and second graders next week, and then the following week are third and fourth graders, and then it's fifth and sixth graders. So if you know of any children or grandchildren that would like to spend a week in ancient Egypt with us, we're thrilled to be in ancient Egypt in our hearts. And yeah, they can sign up. We have the sheets down at the desk. And our next art conversations, we're going to be closed in July, changing exhibits. And we have some great new exhibits. As I always say, you know, when an exhibit leaves, our heart breaks. And then we have something new and wonderful to replace that, thank goodness. And we have great things coming up, including an exhibit of a kind we haven't had in this museum, at least as long as I've been here, which is getting into almost 6 years, I guess. It's from the Denver Botanic Garden, and it's going to be botanical illustrations, and they're from the Rocky Mountains. So even though it will be an inferno outside here, you can visit these wonderful specimens from the Rockies. You won't want to miss that. And the next conversation on the exhibit that's going to be called Forgotten Places is October 19th, and then September 16th will be on Summoning the Spirit of the Southwestern Lands, and that's going to be an exhibit that will be up here, and the botanical illustrations will be downstairs. Okay, moving on to tonight. Sorry, we have kind of a little agenda here. This is a fabulous lineup for this evening, and I am so pleased to have not only the show, which is incredible, but to have these three people, all from Cedar City, drive down here and join us in St. George. So our first speaker joined the Braithwaite Gallery as the full-time director and curator in January of 2008. He has nearly 20 years of professional curatorial experience managing university museum collections of regionally oriented art and cultural centers. He was the curator of the University of Nebraska, Lincoln, in the Great Plains Museum from 2001 to 7. Before that, so he has Utah connections. He was at the Utah State University West Heritage Center as their curator from 1994 to 2001. And he was in Montana from 1990 to 1994 as curator of the University Museum of the Rockies at Bozeman at Montana State. If you have never been to that museum and you're up there, you must go. His master's is in history and museum studies from Utah State University. So please welcome Reese Summers. And I should say it's really due to Reese that this exhibit came to be. So we owe him a special debt of gratitude.
Well, I have been to Avon, and I have made it to Paradise. Do you know Cheryl Summers? Do you know the Summers family?
Oh, yes.
Okay. When my family moved east into Salt Lake, the Goodwins went north, and the Black Sheep went south. I was born in Tombstone. I'm of the Black Sheep Summers.
So didn't you live in Paradise?
I did not live in Paradise. I lived in Logan, but I was with Utah State University 2 different times. If you ever went out a long, long, long time ago, when they were farming with horses, I put myself through my master's program mowing hay with a team of horses out of the farm. You know the Havlins out that way also.
I don't.
Yeah. So but I have been to Paradise.
But I bought my house from Ray Summers in,
Okay,
in,
but Ray
in,
is,
in Roosevelt.
okay, Ray is the good Summers.
Well,
I'm sorry.
You must be related, you look enough like.
Indeed. I'm pleased to be here, and isn't it a small world? It's not a small world. This is such a beautiful place. I'm so pleased to have this exhibit here. It's just a beautiful setting. And before I start, everything I'm going to say is going to be anecdotal and made up at the spur of the moment. So bear with me if you would. How many of you, I'm just curious, met Jim? How many of you have driven up to his house? Okay, so we've got a point of reference here. I'm old enough now, with enough gray hair, that when I sit on the back porch, sometimes with a glass of wine, I can look back on my life like a television program, and I can pick out patterns. Whether they're made up or not, I don't know, but I can pick out patterns. Sort of looking at a Jackson Pollock drip painting. If you look at it long enough, you can see anything you want. So, the patterns that I have been able to identify are a dirt road, totally lost because you received a set of directions over the telephone and you didn't write them down very well. Generally sharp rocks. And then this set of equations. When I went to school, when I was in school, kind of the pattern was you have a lesson, then you have an experience with the lesson, and then you have a test. And I found that life is not that way. Generally, it should have the test, the experience, and then the lesson. Okay, so let's see if I can weave a story out of all this. And this is going to be, I'm sorry, but I'm going to add some context, and it's going to be personal, but I'll add it anyway. We went back to the Great Plains Art Museum where I directed it because it was my wife's turn. Our kids were grown. She always wanted to complete her PhD in English and take a tenure-track position. And so I went back there, and she was born and raised in Lincoln, and that's where her 94-year-old parents, who have been now married for 73 years, live. He's a retired physician. It was a chance to be with them, her to finish her PhD in English, and for me to direct the Great Plains Art Museum. I made the commitment when we went back there that when she finished, I would follow her wherever she took a tenure-track position. I didn't really think she would follow through on this, but I did make that commitment. She finished and taught adjunct for a while there, and then she found this wonderful position at Southern Utah University teaching English. And I thought, okay, I always wanted to be a painter. I'm going to take a part-time job and I'm going to paint. I'm going to paint. So we moved to Cedar City. She started the position there, and I had applied for an evening reference librarian. John, did you know this? I served as an evening reference librarian at SUU. Because an evening reference librarian generally sits in a rather quiet place. From time to time tells someone to be quiet, but generally they're left alone. And I went to the department head of the art and design, Eric Brown, and I said, I'm here, can I hang out with your art instructors, particularly the painters? And we got to talking, and he said, there's a small gallery here on campus. I would love for you to hang out with the art. Have you thought about maybe doing a little volunteer work at the art gallery? And I said, yeah, being in an art gallery, an art museum is like a drug addiction. I'm trying to break the habit, but I'll start.